3 Disturbing True Trucker Horror Stories, Volume 6. Number 1. In my 20s and part of my 30s, I didn't have the greatest life. After high school, my parents forced me to go to college, even though I had no interest in it and didn't know what I wanted to major in. They forced me to do what my dad did, which was electrical engineering. However, I struggled with it and dropped out when they stopped paying for it. I couldn't find a job and ended up couch surfing between friends. It was a terrible time in my life, and I fell into severe depression. One of my friends who became a diesel mechanic got me a job as their assistant. While I wasn't a mechanic, I found myself interested in the rigs and eventually got my license for driving. I became a trucker myself and fell in love with it. This experience made me more forgiving and a giving person. I hate seeing people down on their luck, so I always try to help where I can, like picking up people who need a ride or helping people on the side of the road. One day, I was on my way to my destination when I stopped at a little diner to eat. I noticed a younger looking girl in one of the booths near the back who looked rough. Her hair was messy, she was wearing a dirty hoodie with holes in it. She had only ordered a glass of water with lemons and asked the waitress about sides she could get instead of a whole meal. I felt the need to reach out to her, so I asked the waitress to order a stew for her. When the girl received her meal, she came over to my table and thanked me, and we started talking. I learned that she was starting her life over and wanted to go further west to be with her friends. I happened to be heading that way, so I offered to take her as far as I could. She accepted my offer, and we got settled into my truck. As we started to talk, I told her a bit about my past and tried to encourage her to do what made her happy. However, she seemed confused and suspicious of me, asking if I knew her or her parents or if I was sent by them. I explained that I had no idea who she was past what she's told me, and that I definitely did not know her family. She then started crying and talking to herself in different tones. One was calming and the other angry. I didn't know what to do but let it play out, and after a few minutes, she cupped her ears and yelled at the voices to stop scaring her. I pulled over and asked if she was okay and if she needed to go to the hospital. She said no, and I tried to comfort her, saying that I was trying to be nice. Eventually, we continued our journey and she seemed to calm down. When we arrived at her destination, she thanked me and gave me a hug. I watched her walk away, hoping that she would be okay. That experience stayed with me for a long time, and I realized that there were people out there who needed help, even if they didn't know it themselves. It made me want to continue being a giving person and helping those in need. Number 2. As a truck driver who spent 4 years driving every day and night for work, I've seen my fair share of strange things on the road. But there's one particular incident that still gives me chills whenever I think about it. It was a stormy night in rural Mississippi, and I was driving home after a long day on the job. The weather had turned pretty sour, with high wind advisories and possible tornado threats throughout the Delta. I knew I had to be extra cautious on the 2-lane highways that stretched out before me. So, I called my wife and told her about the weather conditions and promised to call her soon as I made it to a safe area. To stay awake and alert, I had dinner and grabbed some coffee before hitting the road. The drive home was long, about 250 miles, and without the inclement weather, it was already fatiguing and spooky to drive through flat farmland at night for 100 miles. But things got even stranger when hail started bouncing off my truck. As a native of Mississippi, I knew that hail in July meant tornadoes. I pulled off to the side of the road, in the middle of nowhere, with no lights, and no other cars around. I started looking for the storm and tornado, and that's when I saw him. A man was standing outside my truck, his face pushed against the glass, grinning from ear to ear. I screamed and tried to get away from him as fast as I could, but when I looked back, he was gone. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. I was so scared that I didn't even stop until I got to the first safe place to call my wife. I didn't want to scare her, so I didn't mention the man or the hailstorm, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was watching me. So, I decided to check the cameras from the CCTV on either side of my truck. To my horror, I didn't see the man on any of the cameras. It was as if he had never been there at all. I've always tried to play it off as my imagination or maybe just fatigue, but I know what I saw that night. From that day on, I've never driven through the Delta in the dark again, if I didn't absolutely have to. It's just too spooky and unsettling to be out there alone with no one else around. The memory of that man at my window still haunts me to this day, and I don't think I'll ever forget it. Number 3. It was a long night. I had just finished delivering goods in Nebraska, and I was heading back to Minnesota. I was hoping to reach home by the morning. However, as soon as I hit the road, the snow started falling. At first, it was a light snowfall, but it quickly turned into a full-blown blizzard. I saw other vehicles driving in the opposite direction, and they were pulling over, so I decided to do the same. I stopped in South Dakota, just off the interstate near Rockerville. My truck started making strange noises, and I knew that I needed to check the engine. As a seasoned trucker, I always stoked my trailer with extra supplies in case of emergencies. I got out of the cab and was immediately blasted by the freezing wind and snow. I quickly retrieved a few blankets and some other small supplies before getting back into the cab. I switched on my CB radio, hoping to hear some news about the weather, but all I got was static. I was starting to get a little bit concerned, so I popped the hood of the truck to take a look at the engine. I quickly discovered that the fan belt was snapped in two. I figured my best bet would be to call for a tow truck to come and get me. I quickly searched for a phone number and made the call. I sat in the cab, shivering from the freezing wind, waiting for what felt like forever for the tow truck to come. I tried to keep warm with the blankets, but it wasn't much help. The snowfall only got heavier and the wind cooler. I had been in this situation before, but this time I felt worse. Suddenly, I heard a voice on the radio and I thought I was saved, but the person gave no response. I called again, but to the same effect. It was then that I noticed something in the trees next to me. I thought I saw something moving, but I couldn't make out what it was. As it was nearly impossible to see with the snow whirling around, I was pretty startled by this unexpected turn of events. I cracked the door open and said, "Hey, are you alright?" The person gave no response, which was instantly a red flag. Suddenly, the person started walking towards my truck. I could now make out that it looked like a fully grown man. As soon as he reached the tree line, he stopped moving. Now that he was just a few feet away, I was able to see that the object he was holding was a walkie-talkie. As soon as he put it to his face, I realized that he'd been causing the static noise all along. The strong gusts of wind were blowing into the microphone, causing the sound I thought to be static. That's when the noise turned into something that still freaks me out thinking about it today. The guy started laughing over the radio. It wasn't a normal laugh though. It sounded manic. That's when I realized my life very well could be in danger and I had no way of escaping. In a panic, I stumbled to the back of the cab and ripped open my toolkit, where I grabbed a small wrench. It wasn't much of a help, but if it came down to it, it was better than nothing. I pulled back the curtain and sat in the back of the cab, preparing to come out if I heard him trying to get in. Even now, whenever I think about that night, I still feel a sense of fear and unease. That experience taught me a valuable lesson about the importance of being prepared as a truck driver. You never know when something unexpected is going to happen, and you need to be ready for anything. I'm grateful that I had stocked my trailer with extra supplies and tools, which ended up being a lifesaver for me that night. But more than anything, that experience made me appreciate the value of human connection. When I heard the tow truck approaching, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude. I knew that I was no longer alone in the middle of nowhere, facing down an unknown danger, and even though the tow truck driver was a stranger to me, his arrival felt like a lifeline. In a way, that experience brought me closer to my fellow truckers. It reminded me that we're all out here on the road facing down the same challenges and uncertainties, and it made me feel grateful for the sense of community that exists among us, even if we're strangers passing each other on the highway. Now, whenever I'm driving through a snowstorm or facing some other challenge on the road, I think back to that night in South Dakota. I remember the fear and the uncertainty, but I also remember the sense of relief and gratitude that came when I saw the tow truck approaching. And I'm reminded of just how important it is to be prepared, to stay alert, and to rely on the kindness of strangers when the situation demands it. Because at the end of the day, that's what keeps us all safe out here on the road. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this in the future.